Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Newysports TV. I'm Ty Stedman, reporting to you tonight at 10:40 PM and half asleep. So this is going to be fun. Rightio. We're going to go through both days, Saturday and Sunday. I didn't get a chance last night. Again, tired, and I think I fell asleep on the lounge room floor and did not get the video done. That's what happens. But I'm giving this a go tonight because this has to be done. So, and saying that, I don't have to be here. I don't have to do this video. So, I shouldn't talk like that. I want to do this video. That's why I'm doing it. I want these highlights to be seen, even though it's going to take half a day to edit them, and it's half a day that I don't have to spare at the moment. But I'm going to find it anyway. So let's go through it. Yesterday, Saturday, Newcastle Athletics Field, Cooks Hill United versus Lake Macquarie City, as the camera goes a little bit blurry for some reason. I don't know how loud I am compared to this projector. It's pretty loud in my ear, but I think you'll be able to hear me. In the under-17s, Cooks Hill United 1 were defeated by Lake Macquarie City FC 3. Lake's looking to put all the pressure on second place West Wallsend, who indeed played today. The race for the minor premiership in the under-17s it's certainly a tight one. Cooks Hill, on the other hand, were looking to prove themselves against higher ranked opposition. They haven't not won. They beat Wallsend, who were below them as this game went into play. I'm talking about Lakes and West Wallsend. Lakes and West Wallsend both defeated Cooks Hill in the 17, so this team were looking to prove themselves against a team placed higher than them. It took just 3 minutes for Lakes to do the damage. A well-placed through ball from Harrison Taylor found Curtis McRitchie, and it's very, very rare that he's not going to score from that area. Not the hardest hit shot. I thought it maybe took a bobble along what was a very poor surface at the outfield. More on that soon. A shot that I thought, and you'll be able to see here because this game was filmed, I really thought Eamon Doyle in goals could have dealt with this better. It's getting to that time of the year where I have to be really sort of clinical, and you're talking finals coming up. You need to be, these teams especially, these teams in the top four, the goalkeeper probably would know that he'd probably want to do better there, and it's a cheap goal to concede, let's be honest. Lakes worked well for their first goal, I thought, and even though it wasn't the best finish in the world, it wasn't the best goalkeeping, they were the better side for the majority of the first half. Their second goal, though, was served up on a silver platter with a side of caviar. Cooks Hill made some poor choices at the back. A really reliable player, the captain, Michael Dalton, made a risky pass across the box. I'm not a big fan of people passing it across the box, for one. Fellow centre-back Callum Hardy, he couldn't control it, and he handed it straight to Alex Matthews, who scored. It was still, he hit it on a second touch. You're not going to score that with your eyes closed, but it's probably one of the easier goals Alex Matthews will score in his time in this competition. As mentioned, the Cookers were outplayed and out-enthused in the first half, and a turnover at the back gave Alex Matthews another chance in the 36th minute, but it was stopped by the goalpost, and it should have been 3, maybe 4-0 at the break. Let's be honest. Cooks Hill did not show up until the second half, and when they did, 47th minute, they were back in it. Ty Cousins, a player who, I'm not going to say he was dropped to the 17s because that's probably not the correct term, because he also played in the higher grades. He played first grade yesterday, but he is still eligible, and I guess they sort of wanted to qualify him for the finals maybe, I don't know, but he played anyway. And it was his corner that was met with an open header from Eli Collins. Probably shouldn't be leaving people unmarked like that. Gilbert Harabakunzi smashing home not an equaliser, smashing it home to make it 2-1. Brady McRitchie frustrated with his defenders because, as I said, Eli Collins probably shouldn't be getting a free header in that situation. As you can see on the replay, I've got to remember that this game is being shown with the highlights, so I have to sort of slow down a little bit. The Cookers fought hard to get an equaliser. Apart from one or two chances, it wasn't coming, I don't think. It was a more solid second half, but the damage had been done in the first half. Lakes sealed the 3 points with another easy finish in the final minute. Kyson Brown beat a defender after a short corner. Just poor defending. He found Caleb Morley-Davies completely unmarked in the middle of the box, and that was 3-1. You'll see here in the replay, my question is, what is Caleb Morley-Davies doing there with no one marking him? Very, very poor defending, very sketchy defending from a team that's going to finals football, and at this stage, as we speak, it will be Cookshill and Lakes in the semi-finals. So Cookshill definitely a poor performance in the 17s. Lakes, they would have played better matches this year, given two very simple goals, and no doubt I think they also will probably want a bit more going into the final series. I'm not sure who they have next week, Lakes. They may even have the bye. But yeah, they're definitely not their best display, but a win nonetheless. I'm going to try not to yawn every minute and a half because this is going to be a long video. Under 19s, Cookshill United 1, defeated by Lake Macquarie City FC 2. Cookshill had a few fresh faces, I guess, back in the squad. Bailey Graham was back, the captain, the regular centre-back, and he was playing up front. So I don't know what that's all about, but it sort of worked. The backline featured 3 under-17s players: Dominic Noonan, Eli Collins, and someone else. That's good reporting. Good stuff, Newysports. Yeah, Cookshill's 17s defenders there in the 19s. It's risky. I think it's a risky move. In that grade. An early free kick for Bailey Graham would see the captain skim the crossbar with a dip-in shot. The opening goal would come on the half-hour mark as Darko Nikic. I can't even say it. I'm not even trying to say it. It's too late at night. He turned the tables, and a solid period of attack for the home side. After a solid period of attack for the home side, he put Lakes in the lead, smashing it past one or two defenders and the goalkeeper. Cookshill would have felt hard done by, as they were arguably the better side in the opening half hour and found themselves down 1-0. They'd hit back immediately for a goal to Cameron Wormsley, Cooker's top scorer, making it 17 for the season. But a very, very soft goal to concede for Lakes. More of the same in the second half. Both teams even sometimes struggled to get much flowing on the pitch. Deciding moment of the game would come 15 minutes from time as James Ward fired a shot that was tapped in by Jack Russo at the back post. Lakes would survive a scare or two at the end to pick up a big win in the race for the premiership. The last time Cookshill 19s battled Lakes, they were in the race for that premiership. Yesterday they were 19 points behind Lake Macquarie City. And I think it shows you Cookshill's 19s team, it's all gone south. I think I said it last week, they probably didn't but they didn't have enough players in the team to start with to cover for these injuries and players playing 23s and whatnot. And it's all gone south. Lakes definitely pushing for that premiership. And we'll go there, we'll stop there and just talk about the pitch yesterday at the athletics field. You probably saw it in the 17s video, and I'm involved at Cookshill United. I try and defend the club, but that pitch yesterday was poor. It was difficult to play on in that 19s game, and it was brown. Now, I went to Kahibah today, which Kahibah told me. One of the higher ups there at Kahibah said, our pitch isn't looking good at the moment. It was looking a lot better than the outfield, so I don't really know at Cookshill. I don't know if it didn't. I don't know. That's not the grounds people there work very hard. I know that, but the field at this time of the year, it's very difficult to handle. Let's move on to the 23s nonetheless. Cooks Hill 0, defeated by Lakes 1. Always going to be a hard-fought game in the 23s. Cooks Hill looking to match it with the best side in the competition. They beat them last time they played, and they haven't really shown up to play since then. 1 or 2 games probably out of 8 or 9 or 10 or however many it's been. Cooks Hill 23s, it's been poor lately. An early headed chance for Gabriel Serta saw the Lakes captain denied by the crossbar. Not long after that he was forced off with an injury, which I thought was a pretty big loss. Gabriel Serta is a classy player. Chris Walker a decent replacement though. Cooks Hill had a more settled lineup compared to recent weeks and were playing very well. Aggressive pressing upfield, throwing numbers forward whilst in possession, high tempo, high risk, high reward, I guess, brand that should have seen them up at half time. It was brilliant to watch. As I said, high tempo and high press. They were in Lake's face and they weren't messing around about it. And in saying that, it's very difficult to come out after the halftime break and keep up the intensity like that. Some teams can do it, Cooks Hill couldn't. Lakes come out and they were firing. I should mention that Cooks Hill lost goalkeeper Adam Gunster to an injury early in this, or midway through the first half. Emerson Gosling came on. Not really, that is losing the starting goalkeeper, but it's not really that much of a big deal because Emerson Gosling is a fairly classy replacement. The home side were always going to struggle to keep up the intensity, as I said. And Lakes would get a goal in the 47th minute, Kane Rogers getting that goal, a one-on-one chance after getting in behind. And that's all it took really. Jack Russo had a chance late on. He missed a practically wide open net to seal the win, but Lakes got the 1-0 win. Cooks Hill just not doing enough on the day, and as a result Lake Macquarie City are the minor premiers. Well, no, I don't like those words. They are the premiers for the under-23s competition. They've won the premiership. They've finished top of the table. Let's be traditional with that. It's not as big as winning the grand final, but I feel like you need to give a lot of credit for finishing top of the tree, and they've done it with 3 games to spare. Lakes in the 23s. By far they've been the best team, and they've deserved premiers. You can't fault that at all. It was a 1-0 win. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective, and they got the job done, and they are the premiers with 3 weeks to spare. In saying that, no one would probably blame them for putting their feet up on the chair for maybe a couple of weeks, or the last couple of games. They don't need to win any more games. But in saying that, Lakes, I believe they will be fielding full strength squad in the 23s and keeping that up. And on that, Lakes, I think they're setting the benchmark, of course. But what I noticed yesterday was the 17s team, they played 17s, 19s played 19s, 23s played 23s, and first played first. Yeah, there was a couple bench players that played higher, but you didn't see any 17s players starting 23s or anything like that. That's not to say the 17s players aren't good enough to do that, but Lakes have teams that are solid, structured teams, lineups that have been fairly consistent all season, and I think it's a big part of their success is just that. Cooks Hill last week, I wasn't counting yesterday, but last week they had 6 or 7, I think 7 starting players in the 19s team. The rest were all from the 17s team. That's just crazy. So Lakes, give them credit for that, and give them credit for this as well. In first grade, Cooks Hill United 1, defeated by Lake Macquarie City 3. Cooks Hill enjoyed another mid-season shake-up. Of course, what happened after the Kahibah game, You know, football manager Mark Trenner leaving the club, several players leaving the club. That was a shake-up. Several players getting dropped to reserve grade, Asher Beasley getting pulled up to first grade, Sam Hawke coming up, Giles Boyd coming up. That was a big shake-up not that long ago, and this has been another one. Blake Glennie resigning, in my mind, being maybe not, well, he resigned, yes, but he resigned with a little bit of a hand on his back, sort of directing him to the door, in my opinion. Captain coach Mal Hinchcliffe taking over. I've got no problem with that. And assistant coach Jared Gorsuch also staying on. They're looking to produce a quality effort against the benchmark of the competition. A strange start for Cooks Hill, actually. They began with 10 men because Jack O'Toole, who is a key midfielder and a key player in the squad, was running late. He landed at Williamtown Airport approximately 1 hour before kickoff. Or 90 minutes before kickoff, he landed at the airport. He was on holidays in Melbourne, which fair enough, you know. But if that was me running that team, he'd start on the bench. You know, I've done that before. I think I was out at Bell Swans for a game earlier this year, and I came back and played a trial match at Cooks Hill in all age. I got there 20 minutes into the game, and it's just no warm-up, no mental preparation, you know. He's probably changed into his boots in the car, you know. To give him credit, he played all right, but in my mind, he shouldn't have started that game. That's very not the best look when a player's showing up 5 minutes after kickoff and running onto the field. You know, but you can't avoid it, I guess, and as I said, Jack O'Toole played a decent game, so you can't take that away from him. Overall, a fairly even first half, physical at times, but in terms of the chances, I thought Lakes were bossing the majority of them. You know, Cooks Hill had a fair amount of ball, but Lakes were the ones getting forward. Sam Walker, Blake Green, Stephen Ross Pigolozzi, they were threatening at times. Joseph Kakic doing a lot of the work as well in the engine room. And then from seemingly out of nowhere, Cooks Hill were awarded a penalty in the 27th minute. Asher Beasley hacked down by Anthony Carter. Not the worst tackle you'll ever see, but a penalty nonetheless. A crucial chance to the underdogs to take an unexpected lead, and you know, I was standing there thinking, you know, with what's happened at Cooks Hill recently, it would have just summed it all up for Mal Hinchcliffe to miss the penalty. He didn't. He'd fire him ahead, and in my mind, that is just brilliant. Yes, it's a penalty, but Big Mal putting Cooks Hill in front, the captain coach. That would have been very sweet for him. And then at the other end, moments later, he'd block a certain goal for Lakes. I just realised that the highlights will be on here, so hopefully we can get all these highlights going. The visitors would get an equaliser in the 40th minute. A goal that was direct from a Sam Walker corner. Now, there shouldn't be balls going in direct from corners. Kaya Roth in goals probably should have done better with it. A very, very cheap goal to concede. Sam Walker, he wouldn't have scored from a corner directly this year, I can tell you that. You can't concede those. And then with half-time looming, Cooks Hill, they went from 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go to 2-1 down at half-time. Cameron Brereton, I'll get there. He put a dangerous ball into the box. Blake Green, that's an easier name to say, had a shot and it ended up in the back of the net. On replay, I thought Mal Hinchcliffe maybe could have stuck a leg out, but I think he might have thought it was going wide. It could have, I don't know, but it looked like he could have stuck a leg out. But let's be honest, there's no worse time to concede a goal than right on half time, and down 2-1, not much you can do about it. One of the first real chances in the second half, Lakes having a shot off the crossbar. Not sure who had that one. I don't think it'll be in the highlights. I'm not going to put every little thing in the highlights this week because there's a lot. Even at Kahibah today, there are a lot of highlights. Cookshill themselves produced 1 or 2 looks at goal. Tommy Spare, one of the key men again. The telling moment of the game. In the 54th minute, Cookshill reduced to 10 men as Peyton Tagarulius was sent off for alleged offensive language. Mal Hinchcliffe giving away a high foot challenge, which I thought was fair enough. Now this is where I'm going to get a little bit, I don't know the word, call it sour grapes, call it what you will. I'm not wearing a Cookshill shirt at the moment, so I'm actually wearing a Kahibah jacket, but that's not the point. If this was any team, if this was a Lakes player, I'd say that's wrong. That's the wrong call. Now the quote, I'm not going to quote this, I'm not going to swear on my video, but what Peyton Tagarulius said is what I heard. That was a S-word, effing call, mate. So you know what that is. And the touch judge thinks that he called the referee an S-word, C-word. Again, I'm not going to swear on these videos. I don't use the C-word very often anyway, but I did when this call. No, I didn't. But this call, it ruined the game in my mind. And what really sold it for me, I play for Cookshill. I'm not a big Lakes fan, yes. I'm not a big fan of anyone when they play Cookshill, but I'm as biased as all hell, I'll admit that. But what sold this for me is not only was Tagarulius stunned the Cookshill bench, so were Lakes. And I think it was Tom Walker after the game come up to Tagarulius. I was talking to Peyton Tagarulius and the assistant coach, and he sort of said, no one, and I don't think most of the people, most of the players for Lakes were wondering what had happened. So it was quite a stunning sort of send-off, and that's all I can say to it. It really, really played an effect on the game, and you just don't want to see that. A yellow card suffices, I think. And again, he did not label the referee what the referee was, what the touch judge said that he labelled him. I don't think Northern can review video footage or whatever, but I'm telling you, that was a crap call. So we'll get into it. I didn't really think it played too much, but it did. It was plain as day, clear as day to see that it played a big part on the game. Cookshill, for my mind, weren't pushing hard enough for a goal. That did take a lot out of it though. They'd steal the win, Stephen Ross Pigolozzi scoring that goal. But in my mind, the red card sort of does play a part. At the end of the day, let's be real here. It doesn't put an asterisk on this whatsoever. Lakes were the better side on the day. They got the goals needed to win, and they got the job done. And one step closer to the premiership. But again, that red card was a very poor decision in my mind. Joey Kakic, for me, man of the match for Lakes. A player who, I've only seen Lakes on a handful of times this year, but a player who really stood out yesterday. So credit to him. And I'm not going to go too much into this, but I am going to say this. And yes, it's going to sound sour grapes, and I don't really care, but there were issues at Lakes earlier this year. I think everybody within 2 kilometres of that ground would have known there was issues, but that's stupid. That's a stupid comment. Anyone who was anywhere that day that went on the Newysports would have known there was issues. There is a reason I haven't been back to Macquarie Field. I will be there for finals regardless. Now what happened that day and what's happened several times this year, you know, Lakes aren't the only club in the competition who have weird rules and weird, you know, stipulations and that, but they certainly prevail at it. I've heard from several clubs, several sources at several different clubs about people not being let into the change rooms at Lakes. I can tell you a Bell Swans 17s player that got injured in round 1, broke his leg. His mother was crying in the grandstand and they wouldn't let the club president in because he didn't have a tag on. I can tell you that same day of a Lakes official trying to, you know, tell an injured Bell Swans player how to treat his injury when he was sitting with the Bell Swans physio. That's fair, you know, that's worry, but that change room thing, you know, last year with Wall's End, not letting the club president into the change room because he doesn't have a tag. That's fair enough. You know, that's their rule to make. But when they come to Cooks Hill and a high-ranking official from Lakes who doesn't have a tag goes into the change room, I ask, what's that about? You know, why is it a thing at Macquarie Field and why is it not away from Macquarie Field? I don't know. And you know, at the end of the day, Cooks Hill, me representing Cooks Hill and Cooks Hill themselves, no one complained because we're not like that. We don't really care who goes into the away change room. But I just thought that was really. I'm looking for the word. I just can't even come up with a word at the moment. I can't come up with a word. It's too late at night, but you know, it was, you know, going against what they do out there. So, very interesting, you know, and disappointing. But at the end of the day, it's not really that. I don't give a crap who goes in any change rooms anywhere. But if Lakes are going to play hardball at their ground, then they should abide by those rules at other grounds. So keep an eye out for those who host Lakes. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to complain to Big Brother, and I don't think Big Brother cares too much. Anywho, on that, Lakes actually, to give them some credit, I'm not going to be all sour grapes and, you know, BSing my way through the Lakes review, because that's not what I do, and I could have just sat here and not reviewed the game at all if I really wanted to, but I did. And that club is going to the NPL next year, and I'll say right now, to the federation, if Lakes don't get promoted, then what are they doing? You know what? That's not being harsh to the federation, but they're going up. They meet the criteria in my mind. They've finished top of the table in every grade. Well, not yet, but at the moment they are top of the table in every grade. How much more do you want, you know? Say what you want about Lakes, love them, hate them, they're a professional outfit. There may be some people there who aren't the total professional, but the players certainly get the job done, and they did yesterday at Cooks Hill. I will move on to Kahibah today, which Kahibah is sort of becoming a second home for me. I've been there a lot this season. And I still am undecided on what I'm doing next year, and I feel like it's probably worth a mention that in fact, let's not talk about Kahibah yet, because I've forgotten something. Let's talk, if you thought the Lakes part was bad, let's talk about Broadmeadow Magic 10 defeating the Jets Youth 2. I might even cut this bit and make it into a separate video, because that is absolutely disgraceful. I don't watch NPL, I don't follow the NPL this year. I mean, I do, I look at the results obviously, I know what the table is, I know how good that Jets youth team can be, and I know that 10-2 is an absolute disgrace. Okay, and the reason I say that is because during the week, the Jets A-League team, fair enough, you know, Scott Miller, the coach, he took 6 of the youth team players to training. They didn't play yesterday. That's not taking the competition seriously. That's disrespectful to teams like Magic, Olympic, Edgeworth, name them all. And I'm not the only one. I wouldn't be saying this if I thought I was the only one that said it. Go and read the Herald comments, go onto the Newcastle forum, anywhere like that, go onto Facebook and read all the comments about how poor this was for the Jets youth. You know, I was there, it was last year they lost 5-2 to Magic, and they played so poorly that night. Okay, but that happens. 10-2 is a whole nother level. Okay, and it's just, if they're not going to take the competition seriously, then what are they doing there? And that right there is why they'll never play in the Sydney NPL, because that's just poor. You know, if you go around the country and you look at the other teams, Perth Glory NPL, you know, Sydney NPL, Western Sydney, Central Coast Mariners, name them all. I don't think any of them would treat the competition like that. It's just astonishing. 10-2. There will be people in Sydney that look at that result and think, what is happening in Newcastle? And don't get me wrong, Broadmeadow Magic's a good team, and that they played really well yesterday, but 10-2 is just so bad. Double digits especially. It's just horrendous. And there's nowhere to hide from that. There's nowhere to run or anything. And you know, it annoyed me during the week reading the Herald article about Scott Miller and this NPL All-Stars game this week, and how the Jets are treating it as a training run, a glorified training run, and they don't want any NPL players. James Virgili just put 3 or 4 goals past your youth team. And you know, the Jets, I'm a Jets fan, but it is tough some days, and that is tough to hear that sort of stuff about the hometown competition. You don't see the Knights come out and say there's no players in Newcastle Rugby League who can play in our team. They get them, they've always got them, and it's built the success. Yes, they're not successful at the moment. Go back to 97 and 01 and tell me how many Novocastrians were in that team. And you know, you can go and get players like Devante Clute, Daniel Alessi, who's been injured unfortunately, and both of those players I'm big fans of, and I was a big fan of Devante Clute when he debuted at Brisbane. But if you're telling me that there's no one in the NPL who's that quality, you know, look at your local competition first. That's it. And you know, I don't like it when the Jets go and get rejects from Adelaide United, who go back to Adelaide United at the end of the year, go back to the Adelaide competition, not Adelaide United itself. You know, it's just astonishing. 10-2. And in my mind, with Scott Miller saying that, and you know, I'm a big Scott Miller fan, you know, he's 20 times the coach Phil Stubbins was, but it just amazes me that he could say that, you know, treating it as a glorified training run. You know, I get it, you know, maybe say it's a friendly, it's not an ultra competitive game, but that word training run. And you know, Danny Ireland's pulled out, and if there's any NPL coaches watching this, I don't know if there is, pull your players out and field the under-19s, because if the Jets aren't taking it seriously, then why should the NPL take it seriously? And it pisses me off. It really does. And I was having conversations today with someone who has played in the A-League. You can probably guess who that is, and the same thoughts was coming from that person. If the Jets aren't going to take the NPL seriously, get out and let a team like Lakes or South Cardiff in. Because, you know, I'll admit it, I'm not a Lakes fan. but they're much more professional than that. They're not going to go out there and get beat 10-2 by Broadmeadow Magic. They're not going to go out there and not field 6 of their best players because they're training with first grade or whatever. And you know, I could go on and on and on about it because it is just not good enough for an elite development team, the best we've supposedly got, to go down 10-2 to Magic. A Magic team featuring the likes of James Virgili, Michael Kanarowski, Cale Bradbury, players the Jets said no to. And then they go and get players like Milos Trifanovic. You tell me. In saying that, it was probably an hour and a half ago that I renewed my Jets membership and spent over $100 in doing so. So, you know, I'm in a position, you know, I'm a fan, but I will criticise a team, and I'll criticise that because that is poor. Okay, so hopefully it will get better. So we'll move on now to Sunday's results. And here we go, Kahibah FC versus the Thornton Redbacks. That's all the controversy out of the way. Let's just move on. My apologies to the Lakes players for one or two officials letting you down. Kahibah FC, under 17s, Kahibah FC free defeating the Thornton Redbacks too. Let's just bloody move on with this. It was a key game for both sides. Finals hopes on the line for Kahibah. In my mind, they needed to win this. And wooden spoon, you know, Thornton looking to avoid the wooden spoon. And Thornton utilising their bench early. Here comes a bit more controversy actually. And even Kahibah, both teams in this 7-inch game, it seemed like the interchange bench was just being used every 2 minutes, and I don't like it. I know there's unlimited interchange, but I just don't like it. It got a little bit better in the second half, but the early stages of the game, players shouldn't be getting subbed off after 5 minutes and then, you know, another one after 7 minutes. It just slows it down, and, you know, I know there's a lot of coaches out there in the 17s that don't do that. This isn't a shot at those coaches. Maybe they wouldn't do it on another day, I don't know, but I just didn't like it personally. Kahibah started on the front foot. Thornton's defenders were under the pump from the get-go. Gabriel Halpin pulled off a quality sliding challenge. I'm going to try not to throw up here. I'm just not feeling very good. He pulled off a sliding challenge in the penalty box to break up a promising attack, while Seb Krecker had a decent shot at goal for Kahibah. I was about to say this game was filmed, so we'll look at the highlights, but this game wasn't filmed, so we won't look at the highlights. But there were some. Kahibah would open the lead in the 26th minute, a ball from Brad Messingham, I believe it was, I'm not sure. It was pinpoint accurate, whoever kicked it, and it found the head of Harry Wills, who doesn't score headers. He scored 2 goals this year. They were both crackers from long range, so this one was a bit more of a, you know, not so entertaining goal, but it was a decent header. Harry Wills actually dropped from the 19s, but he played a quality game, and I think he'll be back in the 19s team next week as a result. Less than 30 seconds after the restart, it was on again. Henry Gibson got in behind, and Thornton, you know, it's 25 minutes in, it's 0-0. 28th minute, it's 2-0. And at that stage I thought this is going to get ugly very quickly, but to their credit it didn't. That lead would be cut in half before half time. Josh Davies getting the chance to put Thornton back into the match. A sloppy error at the back from Kahibah. This weekend was full of errors, full of crossbars being hit. It was a very entertaining weekend, I'm not going to lie. The second half was more of the same. These games at Kahibah today were very entertaining. Let's just put that out there now. Kahibah streaming forward at times, but couldn't find the back of the net, and allowed Thornton to capitalise. With 3 minutes to go, James Cooper got on the end of a scramble in the box and fired Thornton to 2-2 with 3 minutes to go. And at that stage, I was sitting there, I was thinking, wow, Kahibah have just lost their finals hopes. That's how big that goal was, and it's that time of the year where one goal can change an entire team's season. And Kahibah's finals hopes were in tatters at that point, with 3 minutes to go, and then with literally the last kick of the game, Ryan Stutchberry scoring and taking all 3 points in dramatic fashion, and a player who has been a standout for that team all season, scoring the latest of late winners. Kahibah keep the finals race alive. Next weekend, Kahibah versus Wallsend in the 17s. All or nothing for Kahibah next week. That's a big one. Actually, pardon me, that's not next week, it's the week after. So I might even try and get to that game. I don't know where I'll be yet that day. Wallsend have Southie next week, Kahibah have Singleton. I'll be at Southie, looking forward to coming out there. And under 19s, a result that Southie will be very interested to hear, and probably not very happy to hear. Kahibah FC 5 defeating the Thornton Redbacks 3. As a neutral, and someone, yes, I was wearing a Kahibah jacket today, but no, I was neutral. I also had a Thornton shirt hanging up, and I'm a big fan of Thornton, and I'm not sure whether they're going to get in next year. It's not the best field ever. They're not the, they're not the most, they're not the biggest club in the comp, but they're a quiet bunch compared to most clubs. I don't get to talk to too many Thornton players or coaches, or but I really admire what they do there. They just do it their own way, and there's some real standouts, and you don't really hear about them too much because they're a very quiet club. So, but yes, as a neutral, this had to be one of the games of the season. Maybe not technically, but the drama, the goals, 8 goals scored. Let's go through it anyway. These are the highlights. I was sitting there, not sitting, I was actually standing. I was talking to Tony Belson, the coach of Kahibah 17s, and I said, I don't want to have to go and edit all these highlights. There were that many highlights, and I film this video and then I do the highlights on Monday or whatever. So I'm not looking forward to doing it. But here they are. Let's go through them. Thornton on fire to start this game. Josh Davies smashed a chance against the post in the 3rd minute, as you can see here, and he wasn't very happy with it. A real standout player in the Thornton games I've watched from the under-17s team, which I did put him in that preliminary under-17s team of the year. And just an update on that, the rest of the other teams of the year will be coming after the grand final. I've decided on that. Sort of give myself some more time to just see those teams, especially 23s and first. I did have a bit of a 19s team ready to go. But what I will do in 3 weeks when a few teams' seasons end, Thornton is a club that won't have any teams in the finals. Singleton the same, Cooks Hill. Those teams, I will do a little bit of a season review and name player of the year and all that. Naming player of the year before the grand final, maybe not the best idea. Anyway, after that, across from Jai Bowen, this was probably the 4th minute. Straight afterwards, he crossed it in and it nearly ended up in the net. It bounced off the crossbar. And that crossbar was getting a workout. Thornton would get some reward in the 6th minute. Kahibah FC could and probably should wear the full blame for Travis Howard's goal. And they should. This was absolute shambles at the back from Kahibah. Brock Turner, a good goalkeeper on his day, but his goal kick for me, you'll see the replay here, the goal kick it was a lethargic kick, very slow, that went to Blake Gates, who kicked it back to Brock Turner, and straight away he was under pressure and all he could do was kick it straight to Travis Howard, who'd kick it straight into the empty net. And what really interested me in this footage is you can see the captain, Campbell Hine, just standing there yelling, shouting, pointing down the field, get rid of it. and they don't, and he just stands there shaking his head wondering how it went so wrong. It was an implosion at the back for Kahibah, and you know, I don't like to get too critical with the lower grades, but they should be doing better than that. That was horrible. Travis Howard, it was a decent finish, little half volley thing. A player who I don't think he's scored this year, so according to my stats he hasn't. I don't think I've got every goal scorer for Thornton this year, but whether he has or not, it was a decent finish nonetheless. 4 minutes later, Josh Davies, there he is again. He's spectacularly, I can't even say the word. After hitting the bar earlier, he found the frame of the goal once again. How a player could hit the post 3 times in the opening 15 minutes, I never know. But Thornton, let's be honest, they should have been up 2-3, possibly even 4-0 inside 15 minutes. Definitely 2 or 3-0, definitely. And then on the 20th minute mark, it was 1-1 because they couldn't find the net. They could only find the crossbar and the post. Kai Condon from the 17s team, very, very decent player. He got on the end of a Connor Cromartie ball, and as he was sort of, you know, lunging towards the byline, he was just the last crosp. Look that up in the dictionary. I actually don't. I don't know. I don't know if crosp is a word. If it's some sort of dirty word, I apologise. But that is me being half asleep and it being 11:30 at night. A falling cross, you know, as he was falling over, it was put into the net by Kurt Kowalski for Thornton. The Thornton defender, no doubt, annoyed with his own goal, but I thought that Cal Brzezowski probably would have tapped it in anyway behind him. And you know, Kowalski, he felt the pain for this one. He was tangled up in the net for probably a minute or two, just wondering how it got to that. But he couldn't have done anything about that. It does happen. 4 minutes later, it was on again. Connor Cromartie. That was this 24th minute. Connor Cromartie paced his way through on goal, and Blake McDonald, who I thought had a brilliant day across the 2 grades and has been one of Thornton's best players in any grade. A very, very consistent goalkeeper, and one that they'll be looking to keep there at Thornton for a long time. The ball, he went to smash it downfield, just get rid of it, and it hit Connor Galbraith just at point blank range. I think it bounced off his arm. Not a handball. I thought he had his arm by his side, but I'm surprised it didn't break his arm, really. It was a very, very hard kick. It hit Connor Galbraith and deflected straight back to Connor Cromartie for a simple tap-in. Unfortunate for Thornton, but 2-1 the score there. It was slightly amusing to me to hear both coaches and teams and stuff yelling "Go Connor, because you know they're both Connor. So Connor Cromartie beating Connor Galbraith in this portion of the game. The game took another twist in the 31st minute. Josh Davies finally found the back of the net in this game after 2 frustrating hitting the post moments earlier. I'm going to try to fall asleep here. 2 minutes later, a well-taken shot from Trent Vegter made it Kahibah 3-2. I was struggling to write down all the goals and take photos of the celebrations, and it was just really, it was end-to-end action, goals and everything. Half-time was looming, and then the goal of the weekend, the best goal I've seen. I'm trying to think back to last week. I know that 2 weeks ago there was a good cracking goal I saw. I forget who it was, but this was a quality goal from Brady Broderick, the captain of Thornton 19s. I was watching the replay actually, and they passed it back to him, and I'm like, because I was watching the replay, I'm like, surely he didn't shoot from there, and he did. You can almost see the halfway line in the video. He shot from that far out, and it was pinpoint. And Brock Turner, I heard 1 or 2 people maybe say, yeah, the goalkeeper could have done a bit more. I don't think he could have. I don't know if he maybe he was probably out a bit further than he should have been or whatever, but wow, pinpoint placement or what from Brady Broderick. A superb goal that'll be the highlight of the weekend for my money. 3-3 at half time. What a half of football. And you know, I was thinking this could end 5-5, 6-6. It's some crazy scoreline. The next goal came in the 46th minute. A speculative ball from goalkeeper turned right back Blake Gates. Found Trent Vector, who left Thornton's defenders behind and slotted it home. Poor defending, I thought. Thornton tried to equalise and they'd find the goalpost yet again. Just destined to keep finding the woodwork, the Thornton Redbacks. Liam Tyndall would do the same for Kahibah. He got the ball. I think the goalkeeper tried to come out or something and lost the ball. Liam Tyndall, he had 20 metres to shoot into an empty net and it hit the bar. What he was doing, trying to get air on it instead of just rolling it in, I don't know, but it didn't work out. He'd make up for it with the final kick of the game, sealing a 5-3 victory. Liam Tyndall, of course, as I said, the scorer. Thornton once again played their part in a very entertaining, high-scoring game. Kahibah took a big step towards finals football. Not a convincing first half from Kahibah, and a little bit of a story. Matt Moncrief, the coach, I believe he may or may not have, well, he did. He had some words at half time for his side, and it obviously worked a little bit. My foot is going to sleep, which is really, really not good, but I'm dealing with it nonetheless. Matt Moncrief, apparently he threw a water bottle at the whiteboard, and it went all over Tony Belson, the 17s coach, which that absolutely cracked me up more than it should have. I really wish that there was footage of that. Those change room blow-ups, you know, Des Hasler ripping the door off, being the most infamous of those. As a Manly fan, that's something that comes back to my mind. This is probably not on the same level, but definitely funny to hear that. Sorry to Burlow for that one. Yeah, Kahibah 19's a lackadaisical performance in the first half, I thought. Not really prepared for the game too much. They would win. Thornton provided a brilliant opponent. Thornton were good today, but Kahibah, if they want, you know, they might get into finals, I don't know. It's still not decided yet, but if they get into finals, they just can't show up like that and expect to get anything out of it. Finals football's where it gets, you know, I'm not going to say where it gets real, because this is real, but finals football, you got to show up more than that. Alright, now I'm going to apologise here straight away off the bat for the... Let's talk about the result first. Under 23s, Kahibah FC 4 defeating Thornton Redbacks 1. I'm going to apologise to Ruben Ryan for spelling his name wrong several times today. And just when I thought I had it right, I have it wrong. It is Rueben. I need to get that right. There's a spoiler for you as who pops up during this game. An entertaining matchup with a few goals as well. Of course, it ended 4-1. A slightly physical opening, but an even start. Kahibah took the lead, or they took the front foot, I should say. The first real chance of the match, Peter Milore getting on the end of an Alex Evans cross. In the 25th minute, a bizarre moment at the back saw a free kick for a high boot against a Kahibah defender. Another indirect free kick. Oh no, sorry, I'm skipping ahead again. That was the first indirect free kick of the day. There's a spoiler for first grade. Thornton's Jacob Robertson smashed in a goal that put the Redbacks ahead. I was confused until half time when I actually found out what happened. And yes, I thought it was a high boot, but I didn't know if a high boot constituted a penalty or an indirect free kick. I didn't actually know the official ruling there. So I've learnt that now. A high boot is an indirect free kick. So I guess you're just going to see all these players get kicked in the face now in the penalty box. A seemingly correct call on live viewing. Thornton nearly had a 2-goal lead as their top goal scorer Jack Halverson had a cracking shot denied by quality Simon Frere's save. Up the other end, Jez Turner missed a decent look at goal. Kahibah got the equaliser, 36th minute, as yet again Thornton saw a 1-0 lead disappear with an own goal. Damien Spore? I'm just going to say Spore. He was the unfortunate culprit this time. 1-1 at the break. And this game was win or go home for finals football, in my opinion. Right before half-time, Ranganai Perizeni, I hope I'm saying that right, he gave away a handball inside the box and up stepped Jez Turner for the penalty. It was saved well by Travis Hardy, and on the rebound, Jez Turner fluffed his lines and missed an open net, and he should have scored that, really. It wasn't a good miss at all. Kahibah FC began the second half without Alex Evans. He was subbed off. It was a little bit of a surprise to me to see Alex subbed off. He's probably not the most tactical player on that team, but he is a leader of that team, and it was a big call to make. Probably wasn't playing his best game of the season, but Jason Ilfield taking Alex Evans off, which I think they had a bit of an argument at half time, but that does happen, and I think by the end of the day it was sort of not so bad. But I think Jason Ilfield should be given the credit here, because he put Ruben Ryan onto the field, and we're about to talk about Ruben Ryan. In the 46th minute, he'd give Kahibah the lead with a decent finish. They'd capitalise on some more pressure and score in the 63rd minute as Lachlan Hopton broke a goal drought to put Thornton away, put him out of finals hopes. And in the 71st minute, super sub again, Ruben Ryan scoring his second goal of the game. 4-1 for Kahibah, and that's how it'd work out. Thornton's finals hopes, it's over. Mathematically, yeah, you know, I ruled Cessnock out last week, and I'll rule Thornton out this week. The defending champions, I think, are gone. Kahibah move into 5th place. They're unbeaten in 12 games. 12 games without a loss. 2 wins in a row. It's all going swimmingly well for the Kahibah 23s. Hard to pick a standout, but obviously you'd have to say Ruben Ryan, because 2 goals today, coming off the bench. His attack was pretty good too. A player who, well, last time I watched him, it was the first time I'd really noticed him. You know, I've seen him play before, but it was the first time I'd actually noticed who he was, what he was doing. He was playing fullback out at Belmont Swansea, and today he was on the left wing and doing very well there. And I was actually watching the majority of the second half next to his parents, so you know, it was good to see them, you know, get to see their son score some goals. And yeah, it was a very it was a team performance for the Kahibah 23s, and they'll be very, very happy with that. 4-1 is quite convincing. I don't think they were that good, to be fair. That's probably a bit overboard on the scoreline, but Thornton nonetheless not doing enough to get the win there. And they wouldn't do enough in first grade either. Kahibah FC 3 defeating the Thornton Redbacks 1. My eyes are red, I think. They're not red from any substances. They're red from being very, very tired. So we're going to get through this game fairly quickly. We've got to get through the highlights. So both teams pressed high and hard early on at Kahibah Oval. One of the first real highlights, an indirect free kick, yawn. Another high foot, Ben Henry giving it away. Ben Henry would pop up a few times actually during this game, not always for the good. Kahibah gave a starting debut to standout 23s defender Nathan McCarter. He's been brilliant as of late, and you know, he didn't play 23, so I figured, you know, he's going to be playing first grade. But to start first grade alongside Andre Gumprech, talk about being thrown in the deep end. He did well today, McCarter. Gumprech probably led him around a couple of times, but that's experience over inexperience. You know, just pulling him, you know, be here, do this, as Gumpsy does. To be fair, I think Andre maybe took it one little step too far at times today. I don't like it when a player makes a mistake and Andre yells out, "Are you effing serious?" in his German accent. That's a bit much. I'm a big Andre fan, so I can't take much more away from him, but they could probably deal with that behind closed doors. But anyway, nonetheless, you'd probably hear that in the video actually. Kahibah would grab the lead in the 26th minute and underhit Jaden Demir corner. It was a very... I don't want to put anything on Jaden Demir, but it wasn't his best corner at all. And nothing should have come of this corner. The Thornton player, I don't know who it was, he should have just cleared it. He missed it, it went under him, and it's a scramble, and Ski Webster scored. Now this was quite... I had no idea what was going on here because the referee blew for a penalty, and everyone just... the ball went in, everyone stopped, and then next thing you know he's pointing to the opposite direction with his hand 45 degrees in the air. I'm thinking, oh, he's given a free kick to Thornton, and then it's a Kahibah goal. So looking at the replay, I believe it was a penalty against Kieran Kerr for a handball. The referees called it. That's what I believe. I haven't watched the video with sound, and you can't see the referee in the video, so I can't hear the whistle, but I think he pointed to the spot as the ball went in. Okay, fair enough goal, fair enough advantage, but when he's already pointed to the spot, it shouldn't have counted, but nonetheless it did. They probably would have scored the penalty anyway, so water under the bridge under the water. That doesn't make any sense. Under 35s, what am I doing? In the 35th minute, I'm getting there. It was 2-0 as Jared Penfold got on the end of a quality Cordell Webb cross. Kahibah on the front foot. Thornton cost themselves a chance as Mitch Kaczynski accidentally blocked a shot from Ben Henry. May or may not have gone in. I'd like to have seen it from a different angle. Half-time looming, the worst possible outcome for Thornton, 3-0. A sloppy turnover, Kahibah took off with it, Jaden Demir crossed it in, it was placed in the net by Jesse Smith. 3 own goals in 3 games for the Thornton Redbacks. That's horrific. And to be fair, even this one, it would have been tapped in by Sean Clerk. None of those 3 own goals were, they were all, there's never a purpose own goal, but they were all accidental. They were all, they were all just really unfortunate. Whereas, I can name an own goal I think I saw at South Cardiff a couple of weeks ago where the player kicked it back to the goalkeeper and it was just an awful pass. Yeah, but Jesse Smith, very difficult to deal with those sort of balls. Less highlights in the second half. Kahibah just going through the motions, I thought. They failed to kill the game off. Thornton pushed, but they were never likely to get 3 goals. It was one of those games that as a neutral, it seemed like it was over at half-time. A complete brain snap, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Ben Henry collected Jaden Demir on the break. An unnecessary challenge, a yellow card, a silly challenge, and then literally a minute later, he'd be sent off as he grabbed Jaden Demir. On first viewing, when I was at the ground, I said, he's got him by the neck. When I watched the replay, it wasn't... He did have him by the neck, but it was just a little... It wasn't like a choke or anything, it was just a quick... But still, you can't do that. I'm sorry, you cannot wrap your hand around a player's throat or anything like that. I thought it was a straight red card. I thought it would have been a straight red card. The referee gave him a second yellow, and of course, that is a red. Silly. Absolutely silly. Ben Henry was crucial today at times too, so that was a big miss for Thornton. They were never going to do it. I don't think they were going to do it with 11, but they were never going to do it with 10. Thornton, they would get the goal though, that they need 1 goal, Jamie Subit, but it didn't mean much at the end. Thornton's finals hopes, they were over, and then they were back on again, and then they were over, then they're back on again. They're over. They're done. Unfortunately, as I say as a neutral, but I support Cooksil, who are nowhere near finals, but I would have liked to have seen teams pushing. I wanted to see the race for finals go all the way down the last week. Thornton are unfortunately out of it. Darryl McAllister's side, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. I can't put words together at the moment. Maybe not brilliant, but they are a quality outfit. And I even had some people from Kahibah say, you know, Thornton, they play like a team who aren't that low on the table. You know, they play like a top 4 team when they want to get going. They're going to be a side to watch if they can sort of just keep it together. They're a very tough opponent, Thornton, and Darryl McAllister's done a good job there this year. In the under-17s, let me just take a quick break. We're past the hour mark, and at this point I just want this to be over. Call it dedication though. You don't see people on talk shows complain like I do, but you don't see people on talk shows go until midnight. Well, maybe a late night talk show, I don't know. Wallsend FC 4 defeating the Singleton Strikers 1 in the under-17s. Wallsend picking up 3 vital points, moving into 3rd position. They were 1-1 at half time, and if they had a loss today they would have lost the spot in the top 4. Hamish Maylade getting a goal for Singleton, but Wallsend, Juma Sadie with 2, Jacob Ray with 2. Wallsend just getting the goals in the first half and running away with it in the second. Cessnock City 0 defeated by Belmont Swansea 4. I still don't have the Bell Swans goal scorers, so they're not going to be able to get into the video this week, but I will try and get them at the catch-up game this week. Bell Swans jumped Southie, not much else to say about this game. Neither team in finals contention, and Cessnock's still not really in wooden spoon contention, so it wasn't really a big talking point game, but this one was. Toronto Awaba 1, defeated by West Wallsend 4. Westie needed to win. The premiership hopes were on the line, and they did what they do best. They put on a quality team effort. 4-1 win, Josh Knight with 2, 24 goals for the year. Kai Drayton with 1, Liam Simpson scored a bomb goal, and Nick Woodman got a late penalty. Let's talk about Josh Knight. I said this last year, and he was a player last year who could not control his temper. And with you know, that extra year, he has done that. And I said, if he can stay on the field, he'll score a bucket load. He is now the third highest goal scorer in the entire competition is Josh Knight. And you know, I don't know if he's been sent off this year. He maybe has, but his attitude this year has been brilliant for someone who last year sort of lost his cool a few times on the field. And that's a showing of West Wallsend's professionalism in this grade this year. This 17s team, they could go all the way. And at the moment it looks like it is going to be Westie and Wallsend in the semi-final, which that is going to be a brilliant semi-final. 2 teams who play entertaining football. Game of the year last time they played, but Westie's 17s, they've done the job, you know. Even players like Kai Drayton and Liam Simpson, you don't see their names mentioned as much as Knight, and you know, Jared Hayter, Josh Sneddon in goals, Brock Taylor, but this team is just brilliant. And I think silverware is the potential. I really do. And it's great for Westie. It's great to see that, and those players themselves from the Westie 17s, they stay there all day at Johnson Park and watch the games. That's more than you can say about some of the other clubs. You know, it's good to see. It's good to see Westie doing well. It's good for the competition, I think. Grand old club. Under 19s, Wallsend FC 2 defeating Singleton Strikers 1. Singleton's finals hopes are over. They were already probably out of realistic contention, but they're a side that just they should have done better this year. Inconsistent, luck I guess sometimes. Nathan Hall scored his 23rd goal of the year. He is the 4th highest goal scorer in the competition. He put Singleton ahead, but Taylor Hepburn scored, and Angelos Carvelis scored another goal in the 90s. That's good to see. Wallsend, the winners there. Cessnock City 2, defeated by Belmont Swansea 4. Cessnock were reliant here on under-17s players. Three of them started 17s and then backed up for the 19s. That's quality. That's hard. 3 of them were on the bench, and last time they played Bell Swans, they were beaten 8-0, so this is a major improvement. Cessnock, I heard from someone at Cessnock, in the Cessnock camp, that said they were very, very proud of how that team played today against the league lead. Well, Lakes are leading, but Bell Swans had the game in hand, of course. Goals to Bell Swans from Aidan Hampton, who has returned from injury since he got injured against Lakes. This was his first game back. Joel Nicholson made it 29 goals for the season. By the time we're all said and done, he may have 40, including the finals. Captain Josh Anstess scored a goal, and Will Dundas scored. For Cessnock, Aaron Comerford and Tay Rolls. I always say Ty Rolls, it's actually Tay Rolls, so I get that right for once. And Aaron Comerford is the goal scorer. No, he's not. No, I've got that wrong. It was Connor Garrington. Apologies there. The names, they're sort of similar. Comerford, Garrington. They both got blonde hair. I don't know. I stuffed that up, but it was Connor Garrington and Tay Rolls who scored the goals for Cessnock City. In the under-19s, they were defeated 2-4 by the Belmont Swansea United Bell Swans. That's a horrible name. Belmont Swansea United Bell Swans. I don't know, it's getting late. Toronto Wabba FC defeated Toronto. I can't even read a score. Toronto Wabba 0 defeated by West Wallsend 3. Now this game was abandoned at half time. I'll get into that in a second. I'll talk about the first half because I don't know if this result's going to stand, but for what it's mentioned, for what it's worth, Sam Jones returned to the goal scoring charts with 2 goals. He has not scored in a long time. It's been a few weeks for the previous top goal scorer there at Westie. He'll be chasing Josh Knight for that golden boot. Liam Muir also joined him on the score sheet, 3-0 at half time. Now this game would take a very, very serious turn for the worse as the teams walked back on for the second half. A Toronto player collapsed on return to the field. I'm not going to name the player. I have been told who it is. And yeah, it's really. I got the message. The game's been abandoned, the players collapsed. CPR's just been performed, and I had to try and I didn't say anything to anyone at Kahibah. I sort of kept it to myself and just continued on doing the ground announcing and whatnot, doing the photos. But that was a very serious few moments. But then I got another message saying he's left via ambulance and was responding. But yes, he was in and out of consciousness, and CPR did have to be performed. That's a scary moment, a very, very serious moment. You just don't want to see that. In an under-19s game, you don't want to see that. I don't believe this player had any previous health issues that was known of from one of his teammates that I spoke to, but yeah, very, very serious moment. And we've seen a few abandonments this year with like broken legs and stuff like that, but that would have been very, very surreal to be at the ground and seeing a player just collapse like that. That's I'm really on that. I won't hang on. I don't want to mix up the wording here. I'll mention this first. West Wallsend actually posted about this, and credit to them. West Wallsend send their regards on their Facebook page. They praised Toronto players and officials and the match officials for the way everyone reacted to this was prompt, very promptly and professionally, and it had to be. Yeah, a very, very scary moment indeed. So, as for the result, which in my opinion the result means nothing. The result, you know, it's nothing. Not with that happening. And you know, I'm not friends with him on Facebook. The Toronto coach, Lindsay Jamieson. I did see a few of the Toronto players who I am friends with. They were sort of liking his status, and I think it said something along the lines of, you know, who cares about results or whatever. That this team is a family, and that really that got to me, that comment, and it was good to see. And you know, yeah, this game will be probably replayed. That's what I'm going to say, because it was half time when it was called off. It didn't pass the 75% completion mark. So whether the game's replayed or not, I guess we'll find out and wait and see. For what it's worth, Westie were 3-0 up at half time. I don't know if Toronto were going to come back or not. But at the end of the day, the result doesn't mean a thing. Well wishes to this player that was involved today in what was a very, very worrying moment. And fortunately, you know, a moment that he's come out, you know, he's responsive in that. That's what I heard. Hopefully he'll come good soon enough. But you know, just getting that message, and you know what's happened recently with Bernardo Ribeiro not that long ago. You know, it could have been a whole much worse, and you know that's what I was thinking at first. It was very bad. So that was a very serious ending to the game at Toronto. And you know, it would have definitely had a few people at the club concerned, and you know, just sort of, you know, would have taken a lot of the day, just, you know, would have turned the whole day around. And you know, for me, like, that'd be a struggle to go out there and play after that. You know, maybe, even though you might, I don't know how, if it was really I don't know how responsive he was, if he was, you know, I don't know what the other players saw, but you know, if you're going out there for the 23s, you'd definitely be thinking, you know, that's a worry. It would have put them off a little bit, but let's move on. Well wishes to that player involved. I'm not going to carry on with it all night, but yeah, definitely a very serious moment there today at Toronto. And the under-23s, Wallsend FC 1 were defeated by the Singleton Strikers 2. A slightly understrength Wallsend side. You know, they had Jacob Ray starting, which he's a good player, but he hasn't really played that much 23, so that really shows that they had a few out. He gave the side a lead just before half-time, before Singleton would take all 3 points. Tom Hume scoring early in the second half, and then he scored with just 3 minutes to go. Singleton steal all the 3 points. Well, not steal, I don't know, they're probably the better team, I don't know. Singleton take all 3 points, and Wallsend are tediously perched in 4th position. They need to get consistent, or they will lose that final spot to Kahibah or other teams below. Cessnock City 0 defeated by Bell Swans 3. Belmont Swansea picking up a big win in the 23s, a timely win. Carlo Godina, Raymond Dunn, I don't know if it's Raymond or Ramon, I think it might be Ramon Dunn, let's go with that. And golfer turned footballer Will McMaster scoring a goal. Shout out to Will for the Bell Swans golf day the other day. That was also a very long day, but it was a very fun day, and a brilliant day from Bell Swans. And I haven't mentioned it yet on this video, but I'll mention it now. You know, 60 or 70 people there. They're a great club, Bell Swans. You know, they're not the biggest in the league, let's be honest, but they're a community club. They're passionate locals from Swansea and Belmont and that area, Blacksmiths. Yeah, that was a good golf day the other day. And thank you to Brad Paul, shooter, for the invite. Definitely do it again next year. Hopefully next year I'll figure out how to putt properly. I don't know. Toronto 2, drawing West Wallsend 2. Grant Morrow put Westie ahead, but 2 quick fire goals to Tim Stone during the latter part of the game put Toronto in front. They were looking for their first home win of the year. They were looking to keep alive any hope of avoiding the wooden spoon, but it was killed off. Matt Turner, the substitute, scoring on the break, and Toronto wooden spooners. I'm not going to lie, I don't want to sound harsh, but it's deserved, because they have been very poor this year in the 23s, and luck has been against them a lot of times. But look, I'm going to say it's deserved because they're that far behind, and don't take it personally. There's teams that are going to get the wooden spoon that everyone gets. Someone has to get it, and Toronto 23s have got it. It was going to be incredibly tough to find their way out of that. But they've definitely got potential for next year. Toronto is going to the things they could do next year. That club, they've got some good talent coming through in some of the lower grades. So, but they've got the wooden spoon. That you can't sugarcoat that. You don't want it, but that's what they've got. First grade Wallsend FC 2 defeated by. Wallsend FC 2 defeating Singleton Strikers 0. Tiga Marcus, one of my favourite players in the competition, and Dave Hodgson, another one of my favourites. Hodjo, probably a tap-in. He likes the tap-ins, I don't know. I'm not sure what it was, but it was a 2-0 victory for the Wallsend Red Devils today. A strange stat, actually. This is what I've got out of this game. I only get the team sheet, so I can't really talk about the game too much, but only one substitution was made, and there were no cards given. What a game. What a game. Cessnock City 0, defeated by Belmont Swansea United 3. Belswan scored not just one, but 2 penalties. Kyle Wilson and Luke Cook converting from the spot to keep their premiership hopes alive. Cameron Lodge made his first grade starting debut, a very, very good player. And another one of my personal favourite players in the entire competition is Matty Ellis. I think that's a known. Brilliant player on his day. He celebrated his 18th birthday with a goal. His first goal in first grade. He got subbed on with 20 minutes to go. This is funny, I was actually talking to Brad Paul about Matty Ellis, and he said he probably wouldn't play because it was his birthday on Saturday, 18th birthday. Saturday night would have been last night, it would have, I don't know, who knows, he might not have taken it too far because he knew that he had to play football the next day, but there's not many players that can back up after their 18th birthday and score a goal, I can tell you that. So Matty Ellis did that. And another player who also celebrated his 18th birthday not that long ago, I don't think I've mentioned this on a video, and it's got nothing to do with Bell Swans, and it's got everything to do with Singleton, and they're not going to be watching this bit, so someone tag them or something, I don't know, but Jackson Skinner, the young centre-back from, I say young, he's like 4 years younger than me or whatever, but the young centre-back from Singleton, he had his 18th birthday, and he showed up to training on his 18th birthday. And when I got told that, and I forgot it for like a week or two, and I just remembered it, and I just thought, wow, that's commitment right there. So Matty Ellis, nothing to do with, that was off topic, but Matty Ellis scoring the day after his birthday, there's a gift for you. And there's a thank you to Brad Paul for subbing Matty Ellis on. He gets the job done, and he'll probably get a bench spot on Wednesday night for doing that. Bell Swans with the win. Toronto, I feel like I'm raving on. If I'm raving on, just don't worry about it, it's late. Toronto Awaba 0, defeated by West Wallsend 1. This is the last game we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about NPL or Zone League. I'm just going to go straight to bed after this. The only goal of the game came early. It was a cracker from Zach Parks, scoring from long range. Westie and Toronto scrapped it out. Tyler Warren was key in the clean sheet. Toronto's purple patch ended. Westie back in the winner's circle. And that is that. This week I will be going to some midweek catch-up games, I believe, at West Wallsend. We'll see how those go. West Wallsend versus Belmont 20 United are those games. Next Saturday I will be at West Wallsend again. I might as well move in there. I'm going to be there 3 days out of 5 or whatever. 3 times in 4 days or something. A lot of West Wallsend. And then next Sunday I'm going to be at South Cardiff for South Cardiff versus Wallsend. Looking forward to that as well. I'm done. We're done. This has been episode 25 of Newysports TV. This has gone on for an hour and 25 minutes. Wow. I can't believe I got that all done. It was a good weekend. It was a long weekend. It was a lot of highlights, as you saw. There was a lot to get through there. And we are now 3 games away from the finals. So it's just getting more serious every week. And there's some big games coming up. Maybe a live stream on Tuesday night. This might not even go up till Tuesday or Wednesday night at this rate. I don't know, but I'll say that now. This has been episode 25 of Newysports TV. I'm Ty Stebbin. I will see you next week in episode 26. Thank you.